That's how I test my mic now. I just go bubbly, bubbly boo.
I say the same phrase every time I say, "This is the level I'll be speaking at, and it sounds like this." And I get a little bit louder at the end to check that the higher levels, the peaks,
Yeah.
are as hot as it might go. So I get a full spectrum.
You do a little John Mulaney.
And it sounds like this.
Like this. I think my Mulaney was better than yours just
Oh,
now.
I wasn't
All
doing
good?
Mulaney. I was just doing me again.
Oh,
Yeah.
I should try being myself sometimes.
Have you got tics to Mulaney?
No, I thought about Mulaney's, and then I thought I don't want to see a comedian at Rod Laver Arena. Not even Mulaney. It's gonna take it.
When's he gonna fucking be back? When's your next chance to see him live?
That's the thing. I don't want the screens with it's like the Kevin Hart shit. Like I don't want that. I
Well,
don't
if you
care.
got there earlier, you could have had like a closer view. You wouldn't be seeing the screens.
But I don't get there earlier. That's not what I do.
That's true.
I'm not a get there earlier kind of guy. I'm a
That's
get
very
there.
true.
You
get there
when I get there kind of guy.
on time, if not late.
Now, having said that, when Louis C.K. tickets came out, I got there so
Very
quick,
fast.
very quickly, and we have incredible seats, and yeah, hopefully we get a little sweat,
Yeah,
being nice for the
blood
pod.
sample. Yeah.
Blood sample from the great man himself.
Yep.
Though he's added a second show too.
I'm sure he has.
He's added a second
Sure he
show.
has. Yeah.
Tickets are flying
And
off.
do they sell the white hoods at the front counter, or is that something you have to like?
It's mostly BYO, but
BYO.
it's assumed that you have them.
You have them somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a moment. Everyone will know the moment to put them on.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been too long.
Mate, it's been, give me a
Like
cheers.
5 weeks. Cheers.
Clink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been too long. Now that's my bad. I took a little time off to work on the old
Work
self.
on yourself. Yeah.
Just,
You're looking very sharp.
I got a haircut today.
Yeah, it looks great.
Well, I'm not happy with it, but I won't get into it.
Wait, when has this podcast ever been, or hairdressing ever been off limits on this podcast?
Well, that's the point. I don't want to.
You don't want to be you don't want to join the 3-time
track.
club.
One track pony.
One trick pony?
He just one. Well, it could be track if he's
Yeah, but, well, I mean, most of the tracks I think for ponies are fairly similar. It's
Well,
just like
I
turn
mean,
left very slowly.
when you say when you go to horse racing, you say go to the ponies. It's like an old school way of saying going gambling and drinking. But yeah, no, this is a barber that I just go to all the time, and I think he was just a little bit distracted, and I said, "Give me the huge," and he was like, "Got it." And then I even said to him, "I don't expect you to remember like everyone's haircut," and he was like, "No, I mean, I remember your haircut." And I was like,
So wait, why
"Really?"
did you say give me the huge if you also said I don't expect you to remember me?
Well, I said I was kind of like a self critic, like self. What's the
You were
word?
trying to be a little bit like self-deprecating. Oh, just give me
Yeah.
the huge because we both know that neither of us remember each other.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
playing on that a little bit, like as if you remember everyone's haircut.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got very unique hair. I've been told.
Texturally.
Colorly,
Colorly?
like in terms of color, in terms of shade. Because I'm going grey. I'm going
I
grey.
mean, but a lot of people I think have your hair color.
No.
Is it?
No.
Are you talking about like the gradient, like where it's grey and in what proportions?
Well, I think it's the grey and the beautiful, luscious curls. I think I mean, that's their words, not mine.
Okay, right. So what did he do?
So he just went too much, and then he didn't acknowledge it, and obviously I didn't
What do you
acknowledge
mean
it.
too
'cause-
much? He took too much away.
Yeah.
I think you look great. I think you look sharp. This is the best you look in years.
Thanks, but I just don't want to I don't want to be like you. Like I don't want to be like have like a normal haircut. Like I
Look
want to
how-
have some edge.
Yeah, I don't think you're at any risk of coming close to this, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It'll grow back probably. Who knows?
It might
but,
not. Maybe this is it.
boy, a lot. Yeah, so we took a little time off. I thought you were going to put up a post, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to, and then it just like I was also busy and I didn't get around to it. And I thought this is Michael's problem; he should fix it.
I probably should have, but look, the phones were off the hook, asking when are the Deep Fort lads going to be back?
Yeah.
And I actually did get one message asking when we were going to come back, but that was it.
And you told your mum, "Don't worry, we'll be back."
I said, "Mum, you can just call me anytime you want. We don't have to.
You don't have to just listen to the podcast."
She said, "I just like it when you talk and I don't have to do anything." And I said, "That's the inverse of what it's meant to be."
Yeah.
But yeah, lots to talk about. You've moved into a new house. I've been away. Where do we start?
You got a haircut, and I feel like that topic isn't finished. So I suggest 25 minutes of haircut chat. Just get it out of the way.
Yep.
And then whatever time we have left, we start to talk about other things.
Okay. So
but talk to me about this gradient of hair color. You really think this is different?
Yeah, man. Like I'm going super gray. I've got like coarse hair, but it's also like very, like.
Welcome to Deep Fort, everybody. Oh, it's so nice to be back. I appreciate the patience and the enthusiasm from all of our fans, including Michael's mum. This is a podcast we talk about the things that matter to us and not to anyone else. Sitting through the internet with me this week, my friend Mikey J.
Mikey J.
What's the J stand for?
Jew.
Jesus.
Jewish.
It was Jesus.
Jewish.
And I'm Nick. Hey, lovely to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Old Nicky Blue Eyes.
That's what they call me.
Yeah. And you have green eyes. Am I right?
Wrong.
Yeah. I know that.
And I will never tell. You'll never get me to tell you what colour my eyes are.
You have pink eyes.
No. I actually do. I've got a sty in my eye right at the moment.
Do you?
Yeah, it's very annoying. Yeah. Got to put a cream on. Have you ever had to put a cream in your eye, Michael?
Oh, yeah. Well, can I tell you something?
I'd love if you did.
I had amelia. Do you know what amelia is?
No.
It's like a kind of like a cysty thing. It's not like a pimple, but it's like where a hair like keratin like builds up and then skin grows over it. So it's just like a white lump on your face, and I had it for like 3 or 4 months.
On the outside of your face or in like the eyelid?
Like get it right under your eye. Apparently babies get them all the time.
Oh.
But I had that for 3 or 4 months. And then
that's a compliment for your skin quality. If you got baby skin problems, I mean, I'd take it, man.
Yeah. I've also got baby dick problems, but you gotta take it all.
That's the BDE.
BDE. Baby dick energy. It works. Anyway, grow it, and then I read up on it, and said don't pop it, and so I fucking popped it, and it just came out. After 3 months, though.
Okay.
But it's really satisfying actually. You get this like really hard lump of white. I don't know what it's like. Shit, like a ball of white hard shit, and you just get to have it. And I've kept it. It's over there.
I was in that little jar. That's what that jar is. Oh, it's so nice. You built like a little shrine to yourself.
Yeah, little me shrine. Put all my boogers there, and you know.
Okay, let's not go any further.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, if you at that time had sought a doctor out, they perhaps would have given you a cream or something, and that is a very disconcerting thing to apply, because you have to have your eye open, and so it's like you've got a nozzle, and you have to keep your like you're pinching your eyelids open because, of course, you don't want it to get like on the eyelashes or anything. You need to get it on the juvie, you know, on the eye itself, and so you're like watching as you like squeeze shit into your like blurry, out of focus, too close vision. Yeah. And it's a very difficult thing to self-administer.
Yeah. Is it so you've not gone to contact lenses at all?
No.
You don't need to?
No, my eyes aren't that bad. Like they're pretty close to good, in fact. It is just that there is a slight basically, when my eyes get tired, they start to then become just a little bit out of focus. So having glasses which can adjust for that just makes it easier to be doing sort of longer days, particularly if you're staring at a screen for a long time, that sort of thing.
Sure. So you basically just wake them up.
Yeah,
like, hey.
it just when the muscles are tired, it takes a little bit of the pressure off.
Okay, but you got a sty?
Yeah,
Yeah,
some kind of like, yeah. I'll send you a photo later. It's gross.
yeah. Please do. Be
In fact, I
amazing.
could send it now.
No. All
I'll send
good.
it now. No, don't
All
worry.
good.
I hear
All
you
good.
loud and clear. Let's check this
Happy
out.
to wait.
Let's check it out right now. Texting that through.
Boy. Oh, here we go. It's come through.
You don't just be aware. You're seeing some goop.
Fuck me. That sucks, dude. That really sucks to have seen that. I don't like it.
Just delete it now.
Super gross. Super gross. That's my. That's going to be my contact image for you.
If you check the chapter title, podcast listeners at home, you won't see it because it's super gross.
It's very gross. It looks painful as well.
It was really unpleasant, actually. It was like you would feel a constant pressure, something pushing into your eyeball.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, don't like that at all.
Yeah. Is it gone now, though?
Yeah, it's mostly healed up. Yeah.
Cool. So Casey's looking at you again.
Yeah, he just hid away until the issue was resolved.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So you've moved into a new house.
Yeah, I did.
Tell
I moved
me
house.
everything. Or just the interesting bits.
Okay, well that narrows it quite a bit down. Yeah, so you might remember, I think we talked about in the podcast a few months ago, that my landlord had tried to kick us out with like 3 weeks notice. Mm-hmm. We ended up finding a place which worked out well. We are paying a bit more for it, but it is now a 3-bedroom house versus a 2-bedroom, which means that I can have a study space, which is actually relatively pristine and easier to focus in, and all of KC's gardening shit is elsewhere, and all of his crafts shit is elsewhere, so we can sort of, like, he's got a crafts room basically all for his own hobbies.
He sounds like the quintessential stay-at-home mum right now, gardening and arts and crafts.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a whole bunch of hobbies, some of which are active and a lot of which are no longer active, but he still has all the stuff of it. So
he's got hobbies room, a dead hobbies.
He's got he's got a hobbies room, effectively. Yeah,
hobbies graveyard.
Yeah. So that's just made this office space a little bit nicer for me to work in, which is great. It's a nice area. It's a new house. It's only 4 years old. So our old place had like sloping floors because it was a 100-year-old cottage, and a very tiny bathroom, which you had to literally duck to get under the door frame and get in. So all that shit, now we have a towel rack and and like lights which are pleasant, and and no leaks and no rats. It's all very much an upgrade.
Nice.
So that's really, it feels very much like home now, which is great. All our furniture fits in. It's got so much storage, which is awesome. So the end result was all good. The move was quite full on, as they always tend to be.
Did you employ moving?
No. So we'd asked to move. Actually, I'll take one more step back. KC in his new job has a 9-day fortnight, so every second Friday he gets off, which is excellent. And so on the Saturday that we had the move-in date, that we were going to get the keys, we tried to book a van on that day. And it was like a tail lift, so you can press a button and it lifts heavy things up into the van. And, 9 to 5 should be enough time to move all our heavy shit, do it in one day. And then you have the rest of the weekend to move your little shit and, tidy up the old house and get out of there.
Yeah.
We went to this rental van place, and they said, oh, we can't do that Saturday, but we can do the Friday. And because Casey has that day off, that actually worked out fine. So we said, yeah, we'll do the Friday. And they said, it has to be 9 to 3 that day instead of 9 to 5, which is what we would have got on the Saturday. So they shaved 2 hours off, but they charged us exactly the same. So they were like, oh, you have it for less time, but it's the exact same amount of money.
But
so
you get a challenge.
You get a challenge. It just adds a little bit more stress to the day.
Yeah, nice.
So I was like, well, why don't we just shop around and try and find a different place on the Saturday that does have a van? And Casey was like, no, it'll be fine. We'll get it done in those, 9 to 3. And of course, they always want it dropped back, like refueled and everything. And it takes half an hour to pick up on the day and all that kind of thing. So you really only have like 5 hours by the time you're done.
Sure.
So a fairly short amount of time. So we spend the week all packing, you know, boxes everywhere, filling up the house, ready to go on the Friday morning, get up very early, drive over to the place, go to pick up the van. And they walk around, they pull it out for us, you know, here's all the existing dents, you know, sign all these paperworks, blah, blah, blah. And I look at the thing and I go, there's no tail lift. Where's the tail lift? Didn't we book a van with a tail lift? And the woman says, no, I don't think so. And she checks her papers, no tail lift at all. And we definitely asked for one on the Saturday. When they'd asked for a tail lift van on a Saturday, they'd come back and said, oh no, we can give you this van on the Friday. And they changed the van entirely. So they offered us a completely different thing. So then we were looking at this thing and being like, fuck, because we had to move not only all of our heavy furniture, but we were also picking up all the appliances that we needed for the new house that we didn't own. So we were picking up a brand new fridge and a washing machine, in addition to all our heavy shit, under the expectation we could then like wheel it into the van and lift it up with this lifting mechanism. And I'm looking at this van and the floor of the truck is a good meter off the ground. Like it's at chest height. And I'm thinking, how the fuck are we going to get a fridge into this van just with nothing? But it was like too far gone. It's like, well, we booked everything. Today is moving day. This is the van we have. These are the days all the shit's available. We just have to do it. So then it was just like this crazy stressful move where not only were we moving all this heavy stuff, we were physically lifting all of it a meter up in the air, picking up all the washing machine and everything, lifting it into the truck, lifting it out again. And we got the fridge. The fridge was too tall for the van. So we were, you know, you have to travel. Down? No, you meant to. They explicitly say never lie a fridge down when you buy it, because like all the coolant and the things like redistributes, and you can literally just fuck it up, like even before you take it out of the box. But the guys in the warehouse were like, "Oh yeah, we lie it down. Yeah, it's all good. Just lie it down. You'll be fine. Just make sure you leave it standing up again for as long as it was lying down, and you'll be all right." And we were like, "Well, fuck, what? What are we gonna do?" So we lay down this new fridge. And I'm just thinking, fuck, I really don't want to have broken this fridge before we even get it into the house.
But if they've told you that you can do that, then they've got some liability there.
Sure. Yeah, it's just a headache though, you know?
Yeah.
So anyhow, pick up all this stuff. We have this incredibly stressful, like 5 hours of frantic packing, carrying all this shit, which just makes it even harder. And then get it all into the new place, race the van back. Stand the fridge up, and we end up leaving it for like a full 24 hours because I'm terrified that if I like plug this in too soon, it's just going to explode. It's just going to actively like shatter into pieces.
Sure.
But yeah, so by about 4 o'clock, we finally stop and have lunch because, of course, we don't have the time in that intervening, you know, window when we've got the van for so little time to actually take a break.
Yeah.
And then, like the rest of the night is moving shit back and forward. The Saturday morning, we're gathering all of KC's like plants and things and transporting those over. And then I'm cleaning that house until midnight on the Saturday night.
Wow.
Because we're now nervous that this shitty landlord is going to be really picky and like vindictive for the fact that we didn't move out in 3 weeks and point to something on the wall and be like, that mark wasn't there. No bond, you know, not give us our bond back. So in the end, it wasn't a problem. We did get all our money back. We did get all moved in the time. Our fridge does work. But it was just one of those ones where like every little thing just continued to mount up and make it more stressful than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, I was like, oh, fuck it. Next time, I'm just going to get a removalist because I just don't want to deal with this shit.
It's a stress that you don't need. Like, it is like notoriously the most stressful thing you can do, or one of.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it is a lot of money to help you move. And I guess like maybe you have some sort of sense of achievement after you've done it. But like the intensity of that stress is just too much. Like I'm the same. You
Yeah.
know, even getting someone in to clean the exiting houses,
Yeah.
you know, thing. Just get someone to do it who is just slug you $300 and they'll just do it, and it will just be peace of mind and it's out of your life.
And that's the thing, right? Like it was, I think $180 for a van. Most of the quotes I saw for a removalist were like $350. Like it's not even that radically different. And then you account for all of the energy, time, stress, all of that shit, plus the physical labor. Like it's a good thing that Casey and I are fairly fit individuals, because otherwise, how the fuck are you going to lift up a washing machine and carry it around the place?
Yeah. Well, luckily you've
Not worth
both been doing your squats.
Doing our squats.
Did you argue? Did you bicker? Did you have a fight?
Yeah, we were. You know, you're getting tense. You're getting snippy. There's pressure, and of course, the other thing with the van is like you're driving this big fucking van, and it's, you know, like bus steering wheel style, like horizontal thing, and it's like barely an automatic, and like the insurance on it was so low that like the smallest scratch was going to be like $1,000 excess. So you're like driving with all of your life's values. And in my head, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, Michael dented that van and spent thousands.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we were snippy. But by the end of it, it was fine. It's just like, it's stress, right? It's just such unnecessary stress.
Yeah. Are you all set in now?
Yeah, all settled. It looks real nice. I'll give you a little tour with some photos later. But,
yeah, please.
Well, right now, congrats. I want the only thing for you to focus on to be the disgusting picture of my eye.
I'm only focusing on that for the next 24 hours.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago now, and it feels like home now. It feels very comfortable. I'm glad we made the move. I like the place we've gone to. It's more expensive, but we're getting more for our money, I think. So yeah, it's quite comfortable.
Yeah, it'll be nice for you guys to settle in for the next couple of months before your landlord tells you that you need to move on, and that's nice. Like you can build up a kind of a portfolio of rental properties.
So that was my my house move shit. You were in the meantime having a much more fun time on holiday.
Yeah, I went on holiday. I went with Lauren to the Sunshine Coast. And spent roughly a week up there, which is really nice. Had a couple of instances that were pretty fun. It wasn't necessarily that sunny. Like we were going there to escape the Melbourne winter. Got up there, it was like 18 to 21 degrees.
Okay, but
we were out there on the beach every morning.
Have you been to Sunshine Coast before? Is this new? Is this your preferred haunt?
No. So I had been there. So a lot of my mum's family live up there. So I had been there just after high school with my mum. And then my parents actually just bought a place up there. So off my grandma. So we had a place to stay in Yurumba, which is kind of near Noosa and kind of near, who cares? But yeah, it was nice to like wear shorts and sandals.
Yeah,
for most of it.
So you didn't have accommodation costs. You were staying in a family home.
Yes, sir. No accommodation costs. Yeah, it was good. It was a nice little home too. Flying up there. So a couple of things from the plane ride that I thought I'd tell you about. On the plane ride up there, pilot comes on before we take off, and he goes, "Hello, passengers." I don't know what he says. Passengers. What do pilots say? He says, "Hey,
hello, sheeple."
Hello, people about to plummet to their death. I mean, what? He says, "This is your captain, Robbo, speaking."
Oh no,
Robbo.
No.
How unnerving is that?
No, I don't like that at all.
I hated that.
No.
I said to Laura, I was like, "Are you, freaked out by that?" She's like, "That's nothing." I'm like, a pilot's name should not be Robbo.
No, that's at best a helicopter pilot. At best.
100%. 100%. I would take a bus driver for Robbo. Still would be a little bit like, okay. But
if I got
pilot.
If I got an Uber with Robbo, I'd still have second thoughts.
100%, Nick. Thank you for backing me up on this. And also, just change your name to Robert. If you want to go by Robbo, I don't want you to tell me your nickname.
No.
Hey, this is your captain.
I will allow a Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I'll approve. I'm Captain Robert Robbo Johnson.
Sure. If it's in context.
If it's in context, and if we get the comfort of that sandwich of normalcy either side.
Yeah, this is your captain, Bluey Numbnuts. Like, I don't want what your mates call you. Just call me by your Christian name.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, we made it safely. But then get this.
Okay, hold on. Virgin? Who was this? Jetstar.
This was Verge.
Okay.
Virgino.
Yeah, I mean that does fit my. If I was to guess where a Robbo would be, I would think it was in Virgin.
I would have guessed Tiger, which is now RIP.
Yeah, I could also see Tiger. Yeah.
But anyway,
I think that Virgin has that that attitude of no worries, mate. Like, don't worry about it. It's fine.
I like Virgin. I like their.
I'm just talking about their
present
brand,
themselves,
right? Like their presentation is like,
sure.
Don't worry, mate.
Their aesthetic is cool. It's like it's stemming from Richard Branson.
Totes.
Like he's kind of got that like cool guy kind of. Hey, I'd smoke a joint.
Call
with
me
you
Ricky Branson
at the right time.
I'm happy-go-lucky and laid back.
Yeah, well, he's Richard. I mean,
Ricky.
He should be a Ricky. Really,
he should be a Ricky.
Ricky Branson. That's got a ring to it. And he's been to space.
Yeah. Allegedly. That's what they say.
Well, don't ask Neil deGrasse, The Rock Tyson. But then, get this,
I think deGrasse is in quotes. It's Neil deGrasse.
deGrasse. It's DeGrasse. It's his former rap career, he was DeGrasse.
I get it.
Yeah, as in the grass.
I get it. Yeah,
as in the grass is.
I said.
As in the grass is always greener.
Yeah, no, I did say that. Yeah.
So on the way back, so I had a lovely time. Blah blah blah. On the way back, I switched seats. So I bought the window seat, and then I had the window seat on the way there, and then I said to Lauren, "Do you want to take the window seat?" And she immediately took me up on it, and I was like, "Okay."
Wow, chivalry's not dead.
Bit annoyed.
Okay,
but
so
all
chivalry
good.
is still dead. Yep.
So I took the middle seat. We actually did this thing, which didn't actually pay off in this instance, but did on the way there, where we bought tickets on the A and the C.
Gotcha.
Left the middle, so we were hoping that people didn't want the middle and we would get all three seats.
Yeah.
It worked on the way up, did not work on the way back. So I was in the middle seat on the way back, and then I had some 50-year-old...
Wait, how are you in the... you said it didn't work on the way back. How were you in the middle?
So there was a guy sitting in the C seat when we boarded the plane, so he just took that seat.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Chaos.
Yeah, pandemonium. And so I took the middle seat, and then, just like a normal looking guy, the kind of guy you want sitting next to you if you're on the middle seat,
What does that mean? Like skinny and short-legged?
No, white. That was a joke. And so it just looks like he keeps to himself, is what I mean. And then the flight attendant comes over before we take off and says, "Hey sir, I'm gonna need you to switch with the guy sitting next to me, because there's a mother with a baby, and we don't have enough oxygen masks on this side of the plane." I'm like, okay.
Wait, what? We don't have enough oxygen masks?
That's what she said. It was weird. They don't have enough, so presumably they need 4 oxygen masks for 3 seats at least for the baby.
There's a baby.
I don't know. Didn't ask any questions.
Confusing.
So they switch seats, and look, I'm not one of these guys that gets all riled up or complains about having a baby on the plane. It's all good. I'm very sympathetic to mothers in that situation and parents who are in that situation, and they, are probably very aware that people are like, "Oh, fucking baby on a plane."
Yeah, and the kids are too young to understand how a plane's wings are shaped to create a form of lift which suspends them in the air. They're thinking, how does this thing flying?
Exactly.
They're too young to know.
These are. I'm asking those questions to the flight attendants. How are we in the air? So she sits next to me, and then immediately she says, "Have you had a drink?" And
sorry, just for my clarity. Lauren's still on the window. You in the middle. Nice white guy on seat C was removed, and they brought in a woman with a child.
Correct.
Okay.
Now she's like pretty chatty, and she says, "Have you had a drink?" And I said, "Oh, we had a beer at the airport where we were waiting," and I said, "Why? Can you smell it?" Because I don't know what her angle was.
Yeah.
And she said no because of the baby. So she was already on the defensive.
What does that mean?
Well, I think she means like
the baby's not going to be
the baby's going to cry.
Your tit.
Well, you don't know. You don't know. If I played my cards right.
Wouldn't it be great if like one of those things, like the baby, like the mum's all stressed and the baby's just not going to sleep and she's rocking and it's like, no, what do you want? What do you want? And you just go, let me. And you
I got this.
Lift up your shirt and you just straight in with the teat and puts it right to sleep.
And then I'm the hero.
And then you're the hero.
Then I'm the hero. Has to deal with nipple hairs for the first time, which is fine.
Hey, better to learn soon.
So I said, why can you smell it? And she says, no, because the baby. So I was defensive and she was defensive.
But what does that mean? She just doesn't want a drunk person next to her, or she's like, the baby can sense alcohol. Like, what is she concerned about?
I think it was more like, have you had a drink to be able to cope with a baby potentially crying on the plane?
Oh.
I mean, that's how I interpreted
That's a weird... Oh, I don't know.
Is that weird? Yeah.
I don't think that... Well, you were there. That was not how I would have interpreted that question.
Well, I said...
was it sort of said jokingly?
Can you smell it? Yeah, she had that kind of... She was a bit quirky.
Okay.
Maybe. Bit country, bit quirky.
Okay.
She looked like she had a drink, to be honest.
She was from Queensland then.
She did have a drink on the plane.
Okay.
The flight attendant gave her a beer because she told me. She was like, the flight attendant just comped me a beer.
What is happening on this flight? That's so weird.
This is what happened when Robbo's not in charge.
That's the problem. This is why we needed Robbo back. The flight attendant comped the woman with a baby a free beer.
Yeah, because she was like stressed and, I don't know, had a baby.
Just have a beer. Okay.
The flight attendants were very accommodating to this woman.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Okay. Maybe it's Robbo's daughter. Maybe there's like some nepotism kind of shit going on.
Potential. Anyway, this woman's very chatty. She's telling me that she's asking me for dinner spots in Melbourne. She tells me that she's had like the worst couple of months of her life, and she's just going to Melbourne for a getaway. So it's she wants to chat. And I'm friendly as shit. I'm playing with the baby. I'm doing little peekaboos and everything. I'm getting my nip out.
What's Lauren thinking and doing in this moment?
She's watching RuPaul's Drag Race the whole time with noise cancelling headphones. Don't think she even knew there was a baby there. Anyway, so 20 minutes before we land, the baby starts doing this little hiccupy thing. And it's I don't want you to jump ahead, but you're gonna. It's drinking milk the whole trip. What I would describe as probably an excessive amount of milk. I don't know how.
Are we talking bottle or are we talking breast?
Not breast. Okay. It could be breast put into the bottle.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Probably.
I didn't taste it. She wouldn't let me. And drinking milk the whole time. 20 minutes before we land, starts doing this hiccupy thing, starts doing this cough thing, and I'm looking at it. I've got my headphones in. I switched it to pause and hear through on, so that I look like I'm minding my own business, but I'm actually being very nosy.
Yeah, that's that setting you turn it to. Hear through on. Hear through on.
So she's given me the mum's giving me like a nod, like, don't worry, it's all good. This happens all the time. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm like a cool guy who's just going back home. Don't worry about it.
You're just like quintessential middle seat champion. You know, you're just
100%.
like living your life, man.
But that is seriously the persona that I wanted to project. I wanted to, I wanted her to be like, I wanted her to think like, this is not a guy that's going to get angry or frustrated about a baby. That's the vibes that I was putting out.
Here's an important question though, right? Middle seat traditionally, window gets the wall, you can lean up against it. Aisle gets the leg room, you can stick a leg out. Middle seat gets both middle armrests. Here's my question. You got a woman with a baby next to you. Are you still claiming both armrests, or did you let her have that one as well?
I let her have it. I kept my hands to myself.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I was masturbating the whole time because I had a baby next to me.
What else do you need?
I don't need that much arm room. I don't need that much wingspan for that. It's very narrow with the technique that I'm using. Anyway, so the baby starts hiccuping, starts doing this gargly thing, get the look saying, don't worry about it, all good. 5 minutes go by, starts to cough, the cough starts sounding a little bit thicker. Then all of a sudden, you guessed it, Nikki, poltergeist style projectile vomiting into the front seat, ricocheting straight onto your boy over here, straight into my face. And it just keeps coming. It keeps coming. Keeps going. Then it stops for a little bit after I'm like, you can smell it. It smells, you know what it smells like? It smells like milk that's been regurgitated by a baby.
That's what I would have thought, yeah.
That's what it smells like. It stops for a minute. The baby looks at me. By the way, we've been making eyes at that's probably a wrong way to say it. But we had been like looking at each other.
Engaging.
Throughout the whole flight. It stops to look at me as if to say, what the hell are you looking at?
Yeah.
Completely oblivious to the chaos that is hurtling itself out of its body.
Yeah.
Or the effect that it's having. Stops for a minute and then looks down towards my leg and towards my seat and goes again. And just like vomit onto my leg, just running down into my sock and into my shoe. And I just stood there and sat there and just, I just took it.
Yeah.
I just took it like a good little boy. And then I came just as much, just like projectile. But yeah, so I left that. And here's the other thing.
What was the mother's reaction?
So I think that she was so embarrassed that she couldn't really bring herself to actually apologize. Yeah. But what she did do is say, she said something like, well, which is funny.
I mean, that's a good first call.
Well, what could you do? I mean, your baby's just like fucked up someone's
entire day. Yeah.
She did say like, I think you'd make a good dad. Based on how you reacted, which was no reaction, which was dead inside, which is how I react to any stressful situation.
Yeah. In the full context, that might actually be disqualifying in terms of dadship. But yeah, in this moment, paid off.
Yeah, I just go completely numb and just stare ahead of myself.
Lauren's still completely unscathed?
Oh, she's singing along. Yeah. She's clapping her hands.
Congratulations.
RuPaul's. Yeah. But yeah, so I think she was too embarrassed to actually say anything to me, the mother, but there was some acknowledgement there of what had happened and
so this is in descent.
20 minutes before we landed.
So you can't go out to the bathroom, you can't rinse yourself off, you can't do anything. You're just sat with it on you.
No, dude, I just squelched on out of that airport. I was literally, my sock was squelching as I walked through the terminal, and it's a long terminal, that Melbourne terminal.
Yeah. You didn't stop at a bathroom?
Yeah, I thought, I'll just get home and have a shower and
So how did you get home though? Did you get in an Uber?
No, my brother was picking me up and did not tell him about that before he picked us up. Just let him realize as he was driving us home. But here's the other thing that annoyed me almost more than the baby spewing. And by the way, I wasn't really that annoyed by the baby spewing.
I do have to say, number one, you should have got a free beer from the flight attendants for 100%.
That. Yeah, exactly. Or the baby should have got a free beer. Or maybe he was having too many beers.
That could have been the problem.
The other thing that annoyed me was that, like, as I said, she was like, the mother was a bit of a chatty Cathy. But she, at one point, we had brought some snacks. We had brought some chips, and some like chocolate and something else. I don't know. And at one point, the mum was like, we had our snacks, put them away, had finished them. And then at one point, the mum was like, the baby was looking over at us or looking over at something that we were eating. And she was like talking to the baby, but talking to us. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, yeah, they've got all the snacks. And then she started listing like this specific snacks that we're having, like the brand and the flavor. She was like, oh, they've got all the snacks, don't they? Yes, they've got the Whittaker's coconut chocolate and the fried chicken. And I was like, mind your own business, don't look at my snacks. That is worse than baby spew on me.
That was where she crossed the line.
Snacks.
Yeah,
I hated that so much.
Like
she's naming the specific brand, like that means you're really looking. That means that means you want it. And I offered her some and she said no. But it was creepy.
I mean, if you offered it to her, you put it in her eye line. That's kind of self-inflicted, isn't it?
It's not in her eye line. You know where your eye line is on a plane? Directly in front of you.
Yeah, unless someone next to you says, would you like a McCain's corn kernel?
I said that.
Plain,
yummy.
Yeah, plain food.
Good. Just the corn on a cob.
Frozen corn, yeah.
Do you want a bite of this? It's still frozen. No, but I offered her that after she said that. I'll just offer it to her.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my plane saga.
That sounds like a horrible, horrible flight. I'm sorry.
Luckily, dude, I'm just a happy-go-lucky guy. I don't let anything affect me. I'm very transient in that way.
Yeah.
I breeze through life.
Yeah. I mean, it probably helps you have a podcast where you can vent some of this stuff later and release those feelings as stories.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking. As soon as a baby spews on you and you have a podcast, you think, well, this sucks. But also,
this is the best day of my life.
Now I have something to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, God. Good trip.
It was a good trip.
Man, I've had a fairly full-on couple of weeks of work, which has been the video game stuff that's come back into it. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out because Frogwares, the company that I have now done 2 video games with prior and I'm working on a third with, they are a Ukrainian-based studio. We've talked previously how they are actively still working in this war zone. It is kind of remarkable, their resilience and their dedication to not letting an invasion and an insane person in Putin disrupt their livelihoods and their passions. And they have launched a Kickstarter for the final funds of this game, predominantly because of the uncertainty of the war. They've never needed to kickstart things before. They're an independent studio with 20 years worth of history. But because they have been paying for their employees to relocate, because there are constant interruptions to their workflows and their office setups and all kinds of things, there have been additional costs. So they've launched a Kickstarter. As of the day of this recording, there are 3 days left on it. They've already hit their target, but I would really love to give it one more plug while there's still a chance to get out there. And if you have any spare dollars floating around, look for the Sherlock Holmes The Awakened Frogwares Kickstarter. It's going to be linked in this chapter title because they deserve support and the chance to finish what they've started.
Yeah, great cause. I'm going to single out Dan Piketsky here because I don't think our listeners have money, for one thing, but I think Dan does, and he's also into gaming. So Dan, you've been personally targeted for this.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, you're Ukrainian, right?
It depends which Uber I'm in.
Okay. Okay. So, depending on which Uber you're in, you might have a...
I oscillate between Sri Lankan and Ukrainian.
Okay, right. Well, something to think about there.
Yeah.
Yes, I have been very busy working on proofreading and writing for that game. I think it's going to be really good. It's constantly impressive to me, their resilience and the work that they're putting together in the craziest, most fucked up of circumstances. So, Sherlock Holmes: The Awakened. It's on Kickstarter. A couple of days left. Throw $1 or $2 to it if you want a copy of the game and to support a good cause.
Oh, is it just $1 or $2?
Yeah, you can put whatever you want in.
Oh, I'll do $1.
Yeah.
If it saves Ukraine.
Yeah, that's what I'm promising. Yep.
Done.
Yeah, maybe we just bullshit for a bit longer and then do a rec engine to wrap up. Doesn't necessarily have to be too long tonight, does it?
No.
So how are you?
Yeah, so been having a lot of anxiety lately.
Really?
Yeah. Which I'm not necessarily like accustomed to. And it's not like acute anxiety, I would say. It's like the type of, anxiety that kind of just wakes you up at 4 a.m. and then you can't get back to sleep.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's like you wake up and your brain has held a meeting without you. Mm-hmm. And then you wake up and it's like nice of you to join us. Like it feels like that, and
that's
then it just takes
incredibly specific, incredibly accurate description that I haven't heard before. That's very good.
Yeah, it's and then it just takes you through all of the things.
Here's the agenda of all of our concerns.
Yeah.
Point 1.
And it feels like you're catching up, but it's come at a weird time because like I'm incredibly happy at the same time. Like I've had a really great year, professionally. I've met someone amazing, and things are going well. And at the same time, I'm like dealing with this anxiety, which is not. I don't want to say that I'm like suffering from anxiety, because I don't think that it's not debilitating in any regard, but it's just like, I'm waking up with worries about, really it's just worries about the future, and it's worries about like the unknown. But reflecting on it over the last couple of weeks, I feel like, and I don't know, I know you've suffered from some anxiety in the past. I feel like when I have felt more acute anxiety, it's come at periods in my life of growth and change. And I'm reading this book, and it will be going to be a wreck on here. But I'm reading this book by Jimmy Carr, and he's kind of talks a lot about anxiety and how anxiety can be like a good thing or a sign that you're coming up to periods of growth or change, and maybe it means that you're valuing certain things. And so I'm trying to like get into that mindset of how can I harness this anxious
as
energy
a positive force. Yeah,
as a positive force. And it's kind of like he talks about when he gets on stage, he has like a nervous, anxious feeling. But it doesn't mean that that's bad. It means that, he wants to make the audience laugh. And that's a healthy type of fear. So I'm just trying to like find that line between not letting it ruin my sleep, which is the thing that is probably the worst, effect of it. And also feeds into producing more anxiety when you're, more
very
sleep
tired. Yeah.
And just trying to, reflect on like where it's coming from, and what it means and how it can possibly be used for good.
Yeah. Well, my first reaction when you said I'm having anxiety at the moment, but I'm having a great year, seeing conceptually if there could be a connection between that. And it doesn't seem impossible to me that if you are suddenly in a good place, but you've had times where you weren't as happy or weren't as satisfied or weren't as professionally successful, that it would then come with this fear of like, well, when's this going to fall apart? What's the problem? Where's it going to go? And I could sort of see how easily it would be for that thought process to kick off when you're doing well.
I think you're totally right. Like that's a thought that I've had as well. It's like you want to protect the things in a way that you have now, and so there's like this like protection kind of
it's a
mindset.
defense
How
mechanism.
do I not lose this? But I mean that's being in protection mode is nowhere to live your life. So you have to find a way to move past that, and almost part of it, I think, maybe is coming to terms with the fact that you might lose it, or like not necessarily that you will lose it, but being able to let go to the point where you say, okay, well, this is just, it's about zooming out, I guess. This is, a good period where I have, this success here and this success there. Maybe they won't be there in the future, but you just kind of have to ride the wave.
Yeah, I survived without thing X or thing Y in the past, and I can do so again if it happens. Keeping that sense of optimism or resilience about it.
Yeah,
but it's tricky. The middle of the night stuff is always so shit. Like I still to these days have nights where the brain's just racing and you're just thinking of things, and either you can't get to sleep or you wake up and then you're sitting there at 2 a.m. and you just can't get the brain back to sleep mode. So yeah, I totally empathize. It sucks, that kind of interruption.
I've been using a little trick that Lauren taught me actually, and it was just like putting on a podcast. I know it's not like a groundbreaking trick, but like it has helped when you go through those periods where you feel like you can't fall back to sleep because your mind is racing, just to focus on another conversation.
Anything else, yeah. That's one of those meditation techniques as well. Like the Headspace app has a nighttime SOS section where it's like 7 or something different SOS things, and one is like pain at night, and one of them is racing mind, and one of them is work stress, and one of them is that. And I think the racing mind technique is basically the same thing, where it's like you got to get your brain focused on something else that isn't whatever else you're thinking about. And the suggestion that it gives you is counting back down from 1,000. And just like start at 1,000 and just start counting backwards until you go. And it's so small and so repetitive and so insignificant you wouldn't think it works, but any sort of process that is not just spiraling in that head space of whatever it is you're worrying about is enough to then just let the brain start to let go.
Do you feel like with those techniques and like the counting sheep or the breathing that you can split your brain so that it's kind of like reading a book? Like you can be reading a book and you are reading, but you're also just thinking in your head. So yeah, I don't feel like it distracts the brain enough. Like I can count backwards I can see, from 10.
Yeah.
And then I'm done.
Yeah. I can see the need sometimes for it to be a podcast or something of a bit more significance.
Yeah, a bit more engrossing. But yeah, it's like I also, the other thing is I don't want to like anxiety is a bit of a buzzword at the moment. Everyone's, well, I feel like everyone says that they've got anxiety, and everyone does have anxiety. Like it's become more, maybe buzzword's the wrong term. It's just become the consciousness of prevalent. It has been raised.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't like it when people use those words so frivolously. Like maybe it's fine, but like I think people use it as a, well, I'm anxious or I have anxiety about this thing, and I don't want to like clump myself in with people who actually suffer deeply from anxiety if I'm just going through an anxious period.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. One, I would think, I guess, that the concept of anxiety predates a medical definition for anxiety, so it was probably linguistically fine to use in that context anyway. And two, I guess I don't think that anxiety is only at level 10 there's a spectrum of how people experience it. So if you're having an anxiety kind of month where you're waking up in the middle of the night, I think that's still probably on the scale, and I don't think anyone else who suffers from it is going to be like, you can't call it that. You can only call it that if you're having panic attacks at work, and that's when you go,
well, I did have a panic attack at work.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess it's like more, it's not like necessarily how people might view it, it's more how I want to identify myself.
Sure.
Which probably comes back to, ego or
coping mechanism,
masculinity views or something like that. Yeah, I just can't imagine like my grandfather who was kidnapped by the Russian army in the 30s and was made to fight for, a team that he hated, saying, I'm a bit anxious about doing all this,
Yeah, but there's so many things to unpack there. But one, just because they didn't have the language for it didn't mean they weren't suffering it. The whole PTSD thing where, people who came back from Nam with all these fucked up experiences but didn't have the vocabulary or the medical terminology to explore it. It was very much a thing that was affecting people, even if there wasn't a awareness or self-awareness about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But then, that part of that is definitely, I suppose, still a self-image thing. If you have a fear that it's like, well, this isn't important enough to be declared a problem because other people have had worse problems. Well, yeah, there's always someone who's had it worse than you. But that doesn't mean necessarily that you need to pretend that it's easy.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. But yeah, anyway, I'll do some yoga or something.
Well, I'm sorry it's been difficult. I hope it doesn't stick around.
It's actually, it's not bad. It's like, it's fine. Like,
you're doing it again. You're doing it right now.
No, but I'm being serious. Like, it's very manageable. It's just like a thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a good podcast or a good headspace meditation or something will be enough of a treatment to sort of see you through whatever it is that's brought it on. I do feel like there's a bit of a sort of a post-pandemic hangover, like a mental health hangover sort of cropping up around now. I feel like a lot of people are struggling at the moment, and I wonder how much of that is due to this sort of compartmentalized stresses of the past few years, which now that world is sort of back to normal-ish, it's now coming out in strange ways for a lot of people.
Totally. Like, you speak to people about the pandemic now, and I don't know what it's like over there, but over here it's like people don't even want to think about it. People don't want to wear masks because it's... Someone's speaking Italian in my house. People don't want to wear masks. People don't want to, even think about that at all because people have blocked it out. Like, it is like... It is interesting to view the kind of larger societal psychological impact of COVID, and we probably won't know for 5-10 years, if not more, what the actual impact of that has been. But you already get the sense that people are receiving the pandemic, or did receive the pandemic, as trauma to some degree in their brain. Totally. And have compartmentalized it as such. And are like almost blacking it out. Like, even if I think about the pandemic now, I'm just like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, it's like a collective delusion effect, or like agreement, like this societal pretense where if no one talks about it, then it's not real kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is very clearly just a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Are you over your COVID symptoms, by the way?
Yeah, pretty much. I still take a puffer every day just to prevent any sort of coughing and give the lungs a little bit of a boost. But I haven't stopped the puffer to see what my current status is, but I feel like I'd be pretty confident in saying that I'm not coughing without it.
Cool.
There's no harm in taking it. But yeah, so that's pretty good. I do feel like myself.
Good.
And it looks like the wave here is actually just finishing. So a bunch of my friends here just got it in the past month, like right at the very, very end of it. But all recovered. Sean got it. Sean and his wife got it.
Wait, Sean's married?
Yeah.
Oof. Okay.
He's been married for years.
Has he?
He was married age 12. It was a conscription sort of thing where he didn't really get a say in it.
Well, tell him to stop texting me. It's weird.
Okay.
I had no idea why.
Okay. Yeah, it puts the dick pics in a whole other context.
Completely weird now.
Yeah. If you've enjoyed this podcast, then I'm delighted that our show still holds meaning to you after a few weeks away. There's plenty more episodes. I hope you availed yourselves of them during the little break. So jump onto the deepthought.podbean.com website and have a look for something that might interest you, or just scroll down in that podcast feed. We're also on Facebook if you're looking for interesting news articles or a way to contact us. We're on Instagram for photos of things. We're on Twitter for notifications of new episodes. Our jingles are on SoundCloud and on Spotify. And you can, of course, send us an email or a comment to deepthought@gmail.com. So please, fire away. We're back in it. We're back in the rhythm. And we are eager for answers.
How'd you go?
Good. It was great.
Say anything nice about me?
Oh, no, not you specifically.
Okay.
Okay, how do you feel about how do you feel about a little bit of Wreck Engine?
Love a little bit.
Okay, how do you feel? Sorry, how do you feel about a little bit of Wreck Engine?
A lot of bit of Wreck Engine.
Welcome to Deep Thought's Recommendation Engine. Okay. Have you had time to be watching and doing anything in this past month, Michael? You've been traveling, you've been getting vommed on. Are there things that still piqued your interest?
Between traveling and getting vommed on, I've somehow managed to do other stuff.
Wow. You're just a busy little beaver.
I got plenty of wrecks. I got some huge wrecks, actually.
I got some big wrecks.
You want to kick us off?
Yeah, why not? First cab off the rank is a little show which you will never watch called Better Call Saul, and it just deserves a little bit of a mention here. Breaking Bad, of course, one of the biggest hits of the past decade, one of the greatest achievements in serialized dramatic storytelling on TV, huge hit. And then they launched this spin-off around Saul called Better Call Saul. Bob Odenkirk taking his famed character and telling a prequel story. It was a challenging pitch. Who would have thought that there was space here for a prequel in this world? Who would have thought that a spin-off about this character would work? But in the end, became a highly regarded, hugely successful, very complex and interesting, and ultimately high achievement in storytelling. They just finished their 6th and final season. They wrapped it up. They nailed the landing. And I just wanted to say, if you loved Breaking Bad, but you haven't checked out Better Call Saul yet, do yourself a favor and dive in. It is a really smart, clever, ambitious, satisfying show.
Is it the same tone as Breaking Bad?
Yes and no. It's the same universe, but where Breaking Bad was very much like drug world kind of meth lab chemistry, Scarface kind of antics. Better Call Saul is often a legal drama. It's often quiet conversations. It's often boardrooms and then a slow decline in this character who is actually fundamentally a good guy who then becomes bad over time, and you don't want to see it happen. You're kind of rooting against that progression from being a nice guy to being like constantly kicked, and it's like watching a puppy being kicked over and over again and then seeing it become like hurt and sore and vulnerable. Villain. It's like, yeah, you're rooting against the inevitable that you know is coming,
but you're sympathizing with the lead.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was the big thing, I think, in retrospect, in that sort of 2000s era anti-hero kind of TV movement, the Mad Men's, your Breaking Bads, your Sopranos, that kind of stuff. I think the viewers often still looked up to these bad characters. You're meant to enjoy Walter White. And I think the interesting thing that time and distance has done for those kind of shows is reinforce how really unpalatable and unpleasant those characters should be, and it recasts some of your the way you look at those stories and those world by revisiting it through the Better Call Saul lens. It's very deftly done. Yeah.
It's always nice when a spin-off show, outdoes itself. Or
I would almost argue that I think it might be better than Breaking Bad. Yeah.
The ending more satisfying. I didn't see the end of Breaking Bad, but I remember people saying the
ending of Breaking Bad was great.
The end of shows.
Yeah.
What is it about that as someone who actually writes a show? Like, at some point, you're going to have to write a series or season. What is it? Series finale.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that makes? Is it just too high pressure, or is it just people? If you have like a strong following, that people are just always going to be disappointed. Like,
what's your question there? Is it about the writing process, or is it about why is it often seen as not living up to expectations?
Why do these beloved shows endings always seem to be disappointing to their fan base? And how would you go about counteracting that as a writer if and when you do it yourself?
Well, to answer the first question, I think the reason it's often seen as disappointing is that in reality, a viewership of a show is not a uniform block. And some people might be watching a show for the mysteries, and some people might be watching the show for the action, and some people might be watching the show for the characters, and some people might be rooting for the hero to overcome all odds, and some people might be rooting for the villain, and some people might think that the main character is a villain and doesn't deserve to get what he wants, and all these kind of things. So in reality, when you're trying to then wrap up a show, the expectations of the audience are myriad. There's any number of different things they're looking for. And then you've got a secondary level of it, which is, what do I, the storyteller, think this show is about? What do I, the storyteller, want to end up saying or doing? But that may not be how the show's perceived. Game of Thrones had this big, famously disliked ending, really, by a large number of people, at least, who felt it was unsatisfying. And that was because the show that the storytellers were telling, I think, was different to what the audience was receiving. It was, you were looking for different things, or the satisfaction or expectations you had weren't met. So it's like a disconnect. It's a very tricky problem.
So what would you do as a writer?
So as a writer, I guess, ultimately,
because you don't want to just go, you can't please everyone, so you can't try to please everyone.
Exactly.
So you just have to pick a lane.
You have to be true to yourself.
We're backing ourselves.
You have to be true to yourself, because I feel like if you try and outthink what it is that the audience wants, that's a Pandora's box of problems, where the moment you start pulling that thread, it's just like an endless torment of, what is the audience going to think? What do they want? What do we need to see? It has to come from you in the same way that every other episode of the show came from you. So it has to make sense for what you're doing. And then
do you
beyond
think that's also part of it, though? Because some of these shows that have longevity, and they go for seasons, and like 8+ seasons or whatever, because they've done so many episodes, they've also covered a lot of ground, and they've explored a lot of ideas, and so it kind of feels like they've come. It kind of, when you come to the end of the series, it gives you a moment to reflect on where it started. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can be like, well, maybe they jumped the shark, or maybe like, holy shit, wait, what? We started from, humble beginnings, and now we're, off here killing zombies or whatever.
Yeah, it's a classic technique, and I think a valid storytelling one. You look at the hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell sort of archetypes, or in a more modern framework, the Dan Harmon story circle. It's all about you leave a place, you set off on a quest, you need something, you want something, you fight for it, you lose something, and you return to where you were having changed. And that rhythm is present in literally thousands of stories across eternity. So part of that implicitly is returning to where you were having changed. And it's a very natural thing to do in your finales, is to contrast where you started with where you ended up, because that feels meaningful. It's an interesting point you said if you've done like 8 seasons, or some historical shows or procedurals might do hundreds of episodes, so you've probably done everything, and you've possibly had to stagnate your characters a little bit, because at a certain point it becomes artificial. And so that sense of finality is kind of undercut a little bit by the fact there's been 300 episodes of it. But not that many shows go that long these days anyway.
I'm trying to think of the last show that I watched from start to finish, and it was probably Seinfeld. And even that's just you don't need to follow any sort of narrative there, really. But even then, people were disappointed by the ending, even though Larry David had left the show and stuff.
Yeah. No, I think you're probably right. The key takeaways, and as you say, I haven't done it yet, but it's just based on sort of observation of what I feel like works implicitly in those kind of shows, is a sense of a journey. So knowing that what the characters set out to do way back whenever that was either achieved, or something happened along that journey to resolve that storyline. A sense of character growth or contrast, and then ultimately just staying true to the story you're trying to tell, even if that contrasts with what some of the fans want, because otherwise that way lays madness.
Yeah. It just occurred to me as well that I don't want to tell you how to do your job here, Nick. And also
I feel like you kind of do.
I'm about to.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of shows either, so that's just my CV. If you do want to take this advice, but I haven't seen a lot of shows. I know the term "jumping the shark" comes from Happy Days, where he literally jumped a shark. But I think
not
it
in
would
the
be
final
funny,
episode, though. But yes,
it would be funny if in a show, maybe GG, aka Good Grief, where someone literally jumped a shark, but if it was done in a really serious way, it wasn't out of the blue.
I think unfortunately Arrested Development already did that, because they got Henry Winkler back to jump over a shark on.
And it was Winkler as well.
It was Winkler again. Yeah. So
fuck me.
It's a great idea, but it has been done.
Well, fuck.
Anyway, Better Call Saul.
I should have pitched it to Arrested Development.
To Winkles, yeah.
Damn.
Better Call Saul. If you liked Breaking Bad, please check it out. It's great. You'll like it. And if you liked Breaking Bad, the things in it are also in Better Call Saul. No spoilers, but it's worth it. Michael.
All right. I got a rec. I mentioned it earlier. I'm actually only 3/4 of the way through, maybe 2/3. But I've been listening to Jimmy Carr's book. It's called Before and Laughter. It is completely captivating to me. It is so I saw him talk on You Made It Weird, which is Pete Holmes' podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. And he was talking about, he was there to promote the book, but it was, still a podcast and very conversational. And he was just talking about, his beginnings and his transition from working at Shell as a marketing executive, and then deciding at 25 that he wanted to be a comedian, and just talking about that leap that he took, that risk that he took, and what it meant to him, what he did to, get into that mental headspace. Then he talks about happiness. He talks about his own anxieties, and he does it with his Jimmy Carr is just wickedly funny. To me, I know a lot of people don't like him.
He's an honest to God, classic joke machine.
Just
one-liners. Just the number of one-liners.
and they're just so fucking funny. And he talks about in this book, he talks about his tax evasion and stuff. It's like, it's raw, and it's like good advice, and it's like exactly it's the perfect amount of things that I want in life. Like when it comes to like podcasts or books, I want like, and it's probably echoes, conversations on relationships that I have with friends like you. It's just like this balance of like real talk and jokes and silliness, and that's like all the things that I'm looking for all the time. And this is like a beautiful example of this. And I'm just like flying through this audiobook. I didn't even buy it. I just created another Audible account to get the free trial and just got the credit. So you can do that. You don't even have to pay for it. Jimmy Carr still gets paid. Amazon just gets slugged. Everybody wins. Jeff Bezos still going to space.
Yeah.
So yeah, Before and Laughter, highly recommend.
I do love Jimmy Carr. I find like 8 out of 10 Cats does count down to always be just great quality.
So good.
I do remember immediately after the tax scandal when he was doing classic 8 out of 10 Cats, there was that episode where he was on there where he was the news.
Yeah.
And fucking Sean Locke coming in looking visibly furious, like looking actively angry at Jimmy Carr for it and delivering just fucking body blows. It is up there on YouTube. Go check it out if you haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, he talks about that in this
because really?
I think that was the day of. So he was front page of the Times when that tax scandal came out.
Yeah.
And he talks about like I knew that he joked about it on 8 of 10 Caps and seen that clip. But I didn't know the timeline because apparently like the story came out, and then on the Monday, David Cameron, who was Prime Minister of the UK at the time, England, he like slammed Jimmy Carr in a speech, and so the story got like reinvigorated.
Yeah,
and so it went from being this potentially this story that was just going to pass by to now the Prime Minister of England is fucking going after Jimmy Carr.
Yeah,
and then he talks about going to the writers' room, and everyone's kind of making jokes about it, which made him felt like safe. It made him feel like, okay, this is just like a thing. And then it just picked up over the course of the day. And then he's speaking to his producer at 8 out of 10 Cats, and his producer saying, there is no way around this. You just have to
take it,
acknowledge it, and joke about it. And it's fascinating, all that stuff. And he goes through like, he's not trying to disassociate himself from it. He's not trying to explain it or reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was tax.
It was his accountant, as
evasion.
Yeah,
tax evasion rather than tax avoidance, which is like the lesser of a crime. And from what he says, it sounds like it was just like him talking to his accountant, and his accountant gave him bad advice. So whatever,
or dodgy advice. Yeah,
but yeah, if you want a deep and funny read or listen, I really recommend this book. It's fucking awesome.
Good call. I'll have to check it out. Nathan Fielder.
Oh, baby.
There's a show called The Rehearsal. Have you heard of it? Have you seen it?
I've seen it. It was going to be mine. It's going to be my rec.
Okay,
Joint rec.
The Rehearsal. Nathan Fielder. So Nathan Fielder, you might have seen him previously in the show he was in on Comedy Central, I think, called Nathan For You, where he went to struggling businesses and offered quite ludicrous solutions to their quite real problems. And it was very dry. He's a very odd person. Then he became a little bit more behind the scenes guy. He is one of the producers on How To with John Wilson, the documentary series with that guy roaming around New York that we've recommended previously. Another great show. And now he's back in front of the camera for a show called The Rehearsal. The concept being, what if you could, and in anticipation of a stressful or confrontational moment with someone in your life, practice before that moment in as close a facsimile as you could hope for in order to ensure a desirable outcome. So maybe it's confessing to your trivia team that you don't actually have a degree. Maybe it's pretending or going through the process of being a parent so you know whether or not you want to have kids. These kind of questions. Nathan Fielder then takes the budget of HBO and recreates with actors and sets the full experience for you so that you can then go through and practice. It is very kind of odd. It's very high concept. It's very dryly comedic. If you don't know Nathan's style, it might be a bit off-putting, but it is a fascinating show that goes into very strange and meta and unique places. Michael, what did you love about it?
I love all of Nathan Fielder's work. I've actually only seen 3 episodes of this show because I'm spacing it out because it's my special treat show. Okay. Like I'm only having it when I've got like a nice like Uber Eats dinner in front of me or something like that. Like it's very special. So I've only seen 3 episodes, but it's very meta. He seems like he's matured. I know there was like some backlash about him, you know, maybe the joke being on the people of them being some like victims. Did you ever see any of that backlash? And how did you like receive that?
There was a lot of backlash actually after the finale, or at least discourse, maybe not backlash.
Because of the finale?
Because of something in this finale, but also even referring back to some stuff about Nathan For You, wondering whether or not, again, it was like a consensual is not the right word, but whether the joke was on them versus the Nathan character.
And look, the joke is on them to a degree, but I feel like in this show at least, he's also laughing at himself.
He is 100% positioning himself as the butt of some of those jokes. The issue or the gray area I think in a show like that is he is allowing people to show their real selves, which is often unflattering. And so it's not always necessarily that the butt is on them. I don't think necessarily that they're being misconstrued or edited or put, you know, to look like idiots. It's more that because of the nature of the show and the documentary style, it allows people to come out with shit where they feel perhaps they forget that they're on camera, or that they feel less self-conscious, and that's not always like, no one likes to see
they're lured into a false sense of security.
Kind of behaviors come out.
But that's weird because, like, no one ever complained when people went on Jerry Springer and made absolute dicks of themselves.
Yeah, and there's a lot of behind the scenes.
Or they go on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
I mean they do,
including Joe Rogan,
including Rogs. Daddy.
They, I think some of the concerns about that come from the fact that the behind the scenes world of his productions is a black hole. Like, we don't know what were individual actors told. We won't know how they found the people who they then centered an episode around. And so because of that, we don't know how aware they were of what kind of show they were making or what the context was. And I feel like if that was clearer, then there would be less conversations about, oh, you tricked this person, or they didn't know what they were getting into. But if you do that, if you disclose that kind of stuff, then I think you lose some of the value of the art, perhaps, in the not knowing and the spell you fall under when you watch one of his shows. It's I won't talk about the second half of the season because I think you will prefer to experience it fresh. But the final episode was definitely controversial.
Okay. Well, yeah. Can't wait for that. Yeah, I guess it's like similar to Borat, like, but I feel like Borat didn't, even with the new one, didn't really.
I think Borat's safer because the character is so heightened. The insanity of what Borat does,
but also he's targeting like right wingers and rednecks as well. I feel like that's like, yeah, oh, you can make fun of them.
Yeah, but also again, I think maybe in a similar fieldery kind of way, the Borat thing is about creating a space that feels safe and allowing people to then incriminate themselves, right? And is that entrapment, or is that just documentarian style filmmaking, right? Like, there's an ambiguity there.
Yeah, I guess like Louis Theroux's kind of doing a similar thing in some ways.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, it's very interesting. It's sometimes laugh out loud funny. I still every now and again just think, oh, it's Door City in here. Like, there are some lines which are just like stuck in my head.
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's often very provocative and meta and trippy and self-referential. And have you seen the episode which is about the Fielder method yet, or is that 4?
I think we went into the Fielder method in 3.
Okay, right. Like the acting class he sets up.
Yes, I love that. That was the last one I watched.
Yeah.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's starting to get meta and self-referential. Yeah. Cool.
It's so good that shows can fill the space or feel that they have the freedom to do that kind of stuff. Like, it's a risk to take as a show, and it's a risk to back it as a production company.
Yeah, and it was renewed for a second season.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It feels like his piece de resistance or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like his final thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what comes.
Yeah. I had another couple of shows, but I'm not going to do them. I'm not going to give you shows because we've done 3 shows.
Okay.
I'm just going to give my rec is going to be a life hack.
I mean, you did a book, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I did a book because I'm fucking smart. But I didn't I didn't read the book. Using Q-tips as earwax removers, guys. It's the best thing. It's the best thing you can do to remove earwax from your ears. Now, a lot of people will tell you...
is not a doctor, and this is not medical advice.
A lot of people will tell you that
it's a bad
using
idea.
Q-tips is an ancient method invented by the Egyptians and
Egyptians?
is no longer... Egyptians. Missed it. Such a good opportunity. But people will say that it's an ancient method and that you shouldn't use that, and some bullshit like it drives the wax further into your brain or something.
Yep.
First of all, even if it does that, your brain is like grey. And wouldn't it be nice to have like an orangey, speckly kind of brain, like a giraffe?
Weird thing.
Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would. Maybe it wouldn't. But also, what other devices do you have to remove wax from your ears?
Like
nothing. I've tried. Don't try the sprays. It's gross. It's weird.
What about one of the warm water squeegees?
No, who wants to put warm water? I don't want anything going in my ears other than a Q-tip.
Your question was, what other way I said for cleaning wax?
Nick, this is kind of rhetorical rant that I'm going on right now. Okay. And I prefer you to shut up.
Sorry.
I don't want any liquids going into my brain. Or maybe I have liquids in my brain already. In my earlobes.
Not the earlobes.
Ear skull thing.
Sorry, whatever. I'm not allowed to talk, so I could get you out of this hole, but I've been asked not to.
The opening where the stuff goes in the ears, but then lives in the skull. That part, I don't want any liquids going in there. The best thing you can do, you know what they should invent, Nick? And you can talk now. Is a plunge, if it's backing me up, is like a tiny little plunger for the ears. Okay. That just gets like wax
a toilet
out.
Plunger.
Yeah, and it just like goes in. You just pump it a few times, and then all this wax comes out. Now that would be better than a Q-tip, but for now that doesn't exist. We've just got the Q-tip. So stick a Q-tip, and also they're cheap. Stick a Q-tip in the ear, twirl it around a little bit. Bob's your uncle. Also, maybe use a couple of Q-tips if you've got a lot of wax, or you've been wearing your headphones a lot. I know it can build up if you do wear your headphones a lot, and it creates more wax for some reason. Does anyone know what wax is? No. Maybe bees do. Maybe bees know what wax is. No.
Scientists, doctors.
Scientists and bees know what wax is, know what the purpose of wax is. But for us civilians, we aren't to know. So stick a Q-tip in there, pull it out. It's just made of plastic, so you're only hurting the environment if you use more than one Q-tip. Stick another one back in there, pull it out, rinse and repeat.
I think the word you were looking for is the ear canal. And much like the Suez Canal, it was blocked by the Ever Given ship of the
Egyptians.
Yeah.
It's going to be somewhere near Egypt.
It was blocked by the Egyptians, yeah.
Yeah. So, Hakuna Matata.
Oh.